All right. What's going on, everybody? It is Monday. We're recording on Monday, August 8th. This is episode 2 of the Fantasy Football Busters podcast. Excited to be on here. We're talking tight end rankings and tiers today. I'm Eric. This is Will.
Mm-hmm.
And how you doing today, man?
Hey man, I'm doing great. Honestly, it's just another great day to talk some football. Hopefully, a bunch of shit doesn't hit the fan after we get off of this one.
Yeah. Always the goal, always the hope.
And with that being said, everybody, if you enjoy football or you like fantasy football or you just like hearing us talk football, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, anything like that to drive those engagements up.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, any way you can help us out would be much appreciated. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let's get right into it, man. So I guess we'll start at the top because I feel like we're probably going to agree the most there. And as we get down the list, that's where things are going to kind of get a little wonky. But up at the top, for me, in a tier of his own at 1 is Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
Um,
Travis Kelsey isn't even grouped with anyone else.
yeah, it's easy for me after Tyreek left. I'm not a big guy to hype up vacated targets because targets are earned and that's where that comes from. But clearly, Travis Kelce has proven that he is worthy of those targets. Even if his target market share doesn't jump up dramatically, I believe he was at like 22% last year. If that just goes up to like 24 or 25, he's easily the tight end one for me, or at least worthy of being drafted as the tight end one.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because as of right now, is he the only target besides like Nicole Hardman? He's like the only one that's here from last year.
That carries over, yeah, pretty
Right.
much. Everybody else seems to be gone.
So I wouldn't even be surprised if he got like a 30% target share, 35, just because who else are we throwing the ball to out here, getting this, rapport and chemistry together with. So that makes a lot of sense.
Right. I mean, 30% is a lot, but I could see that as a ceiling case for sure. Another thing that I wanted to bring up about him is last episode I mentioned really targeting him at the end of the first round. I've been listening to some other fantasy podcasts and stuff like that where, other people agree he's their tight end one, but they find themselves not really liking the build of their team when they take him in the first round. I can definitely see that, like from a strategy standpoint and a team building standpoint. But for me, I find if I draft him legit, like at the turn, if I'm the 12th team in a 12-team league and I get like my start is Kelce Swift or Kelce Barkley, Kelce, one of those top running backs that's still there, you can still rip off like 3 running backs in a row. You can go Kelce, Swift, and then like Brees Hall, Travis Etienne in that third, fourth round turn. And I love the way my team looks.
No, I do. I enjoy that too, just because of that huge positional advantage you get.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's just with wide receivers, you don't necessarily need a first or second round receiver to still be successful in fantasy.
Yeah,
So, yeah, you can still get a really good team out of that.
for sure.
Now,
So
this
let's
is
move
actually going
down.
to be interesting for this number 2 spot.
Really? Well, let's
Uh,
hear it. I want to hear yours.
well, I've been just because this is what I was going to talk to you about before we started because I was looking around at a lot of these lists and Mark Andrews is at that number 2 spot. And in
Yeah.
my head, I had always thought that was Kittle from just the talent
Okay.
perspective. So I don't, what did you think about this one?
For me personally, it was Mark Andrews pretty easy at the 2. He was the
Mm-hmm.
tight end one last year by a decent margin, I believe. I got the numbers in front of me. Yeah, it was like a 30-point gap between him and Kelce at the end of the season.
Jeez.
Um, Granted, Kelce, I think, played one less game. But even on a per game basis, it was a full point difference. He was racking up the stats last year: 154 targets, 107 receptions, 1,360 yards, 9 touchdowns. He was a beast.
No, that makes sense because he was nice. But I like Kittle a lot. I do think that he's still going to produce at that high level when he is on the field. But like I've always said before, best ability is availability. Mark
Yeah,
Andrews has been there every week, balling every week. So that 2 spot for him does make sense too.
yeah. So is Kittle at your 2, or is it Andrews for you?
Mark Andrews is probably going to be my two, and Kittle would
Okay.
have to be at my three.
Yeah. So for me, like I said, Travis Kelsey tier of his own at one. I actually have Andrews also tier of his own at two before a cutoff, before a few guys three through five. Um, so I guess
Ooh.
we can get straight into that one. I feel like Mark Andrews is fairly self-explanatory. Like I said, he balled last year. Um, with the Ravens kind of hopefully getting healthy this year, having a better flow on offense, he's just set up to smash again, in my opinion. But then we get down to three, and this is where I have a tier of three guys for me that starts with Darren Waller. Um,
Mm.
I could see the argument here. I can see it brewing in your face too. That you wanna
Mm.
you wanna tell me otherwise. For me, with Devonte Adams coming in, like his target share is going to drop. I think that's a given. Devonte Adams is going to demand a ton of targets, so I understand that argument. But I think it's also just going to make this offense run a lot more smoothly, and it's going to give them just more plays in general. They're going to be punting and getting off the field less. They're going to be in the red zone more, and I think that's going to open up opportunities for Darren Waller.
Okay, it's Darren Waller. You have him at your your three.
So he's in a tier with these three other guys. So really, like, from an advice standpoint, like I wouldn't mind anybody drafting any of them over each other. They're close enough to me that it's kind of a crapshoot. But yeah, in my personal list, he's the third.
Okay. I'm trying to think because Darren Waller last year he didn't really play a whole lot. He was hurt a good amount of the season.
Yeah, I think he only played 11 games. And I'm not sure if even all 11 of them he was fully healthy. He might have like left early in some of them.
Now, do you obviously Kittle is below Darren Waller in your list. I'm kind of using Kittle as a measuring bar right now just because
Sure.
he is in a weird situation.
Yeah,
Is Kittle getting bumped down because of Trey Lance?
partially. So
Okay,
you mentioned availability being the best ability. He's
that
struggled with
too.
that. Um, I'm not in the business of predicting injuries. Who knows if he's actually injury prone? He plays the position so violently.
Yeah, he's a
Um,
physical dude. He's gonna go
yeah,
out there and give it his all every week.
right. So for Kittle, let me make it clear that like he's fucking amazing. If we everybody has that scenario, like if the aliens came down and we were playing best NFL players versus whoever they got, like Kittle is our tight end one.
Space Jam style.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
like I respect the crap out of Kittle. He's an amazing player. From a fantasy perspective, though, one, he doesn't always stay on the field. Um, and two, there's just a lot of mouths to feed here in an offense that I think is going to like
Be
not have
very
very
run
high
heavy.
pass volume. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Because I was thinking about it because I was like, when Kittle played with Trey Lance, how did they do? Obviously, they're switching gears a little bit going into this season. It's not going to be the same exact team.
Yep.
But I was looking at it, and Kittle was targeted a good amount when Trey Lance played.
Okay.
I think, I'm looking at the stats now, and in two of those games, he averaged at least 9 targets.
That's a really good number.
Yeah, but then there's other ones like his first game he played with him, he only got 5 targets, which is still a good amount. He caught 4 of them, 78 yards. The last 2 games he had 4 targets and 2 targets, so that does kind of show that inconsistency from Trey Lance as well.
Yeah.
But I think that those 9 and 10 target games do show a good amount of promise to them, with Kittle being the player that he is as
Yeah.
well.
And I don't disagree with you. I think he's definitely going to have those boom weeks and show you like why he is probably the best tight end on the planet. But I don't know how consistent, like to your point, it's going to be, and that
Hmm.
worries me a little bit.
No, that's fair. So like Darren Waller being at that three, I'm comfortable with it. I think
Yeah,
it's going to be one of those 3A, 3B type situations where probably going to get similar production out of the two of them. But like you said,
right.
availability is the best ability, and Kittle hasn't done that a lot for the last few years, not even just last year. So,
Yeah. So Kittle is your three. Yeah.
yes.
Who's your four?
I would have Darren Waller at my 4.
Okay.
That's why I said like we're arguing stuff and we're flipping between 3 and 4. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter all that much. But
Yeah.
yeah, I give Kittle the nod there, at least
Yeah.
from my my perspective.
Yeah. Which is totally fair to me. Like I said, they're all clumped in a tier, so I wouldn't argue with you either way. Um, but for me, again, three guys in the same tier, all super close. I still have Pitts ranked ahead of Kittle, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You got Pitts at your 4.
And this is one that I've really been going back and forth on. So like there's plenty I could make the argument either way for why Pitts might be a fade at cost this year or why he's a smash at cost this year. Like he's playing in Atlanta with
Mm-hmm.
a Marcus Mariota led offense. They're probably not one. I think the Vegas line or the Vegas projection for Mariota touchdowns is like 19. So even if he has a huge share of that, like that's just not very much.
Kyle Pitts needs
Uh,
all 19 of those.
yeah, the offense probably isn't going to move very well. Who knows? Like maybe Ritter comes in halfway through the season or at the end of the season and changes things up. There's a good amount of arguments that can be made for why he's not gonna smash, but like I think it's also like a super concentrated target funnel between him and Drake London. There's like nobody else there.
Yeah.
He had literally like the best rookie tight end season of all time. We all knew that he was just an amazing prospect coming out of college. And I think he's set up to increase his target share dramatically into that like Kelsey Andrews range of like 24-25% target share.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously, he didn't have the touchdown luck last year. He only had one touchdown the whole season.
Yeah, hasn't scored a touchdown in America yet. In a real game, at least.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm definitely back and forth. I think it's mainly that I just don't want to miss the boat on a guy that we all know is incredibly talented and
Mm-hmm.
like is a wide receiver playing the tight end position. Um, so people point out like the Mariota with Delaney Walker season, like he supported a top three tight end with Delaney Walker, I think 2 years in a row,
Yeah.
even though he wasn't a high volume quarterback and he wasn't super accurate. It's possible. It's been done before, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think talent can win out on that. I do think talent can win out because there's been years where like a D Hop has been stuck on a team with Tom Savage as his quarterback, and he was the number one
Yeah,
wide receiver in fantasy on the Texans. So like I definitely see where it's coming from. And as you know, I have Kyle Pitts in Dynasty.
which I'm so jealous.
And I'm hoping you're 3,000,000% right here, which I'm sure you are. I think he's like you said, he's gonna have more touchdown luck this year. I didn't know until like recently, and this is just me not knowing stats, but I didn't know that regression could be positive or negative. So like to
Yeah,
say touchdown regression, he's still going to the mean if he
right.
starts at the low end. So I do think there's
Progression,
gonna
regression. Yeah,
yeah.
same idea.
But I think like you said, he's gonna have a lot more touchdown luck this year. He's gonna have to be the Falcons.
Yeah,
So this is going to be a year where we kind of see if he can take that next step to be like a superstar. We're going to find out if he's just a really good player or a superstar this year, I feel like.
yeah, and I think I see. I might even miss the boat on him still, having him at 4. Like in your home leagues and stuff like that, that's probably ranked high enough to where you'll be able to get him on your teams. But in sharp leagues, he's going as the third or even second tight end off the board sometimes, like in the early third round. I don't know that I can get behind it there. I think that's a little too much risk to be baked in at that ADP. But he's just a guy that like could go to the moon, and it would suck if I felt almost strongly enough and like didn't draft him and then that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that. And he's
Yeah.
what, like 22?
Is he?
How old is
He
Kyle
was.
Pitts?
He might still be 21. He was 20 for a good bit of his rookie season,
Jesus, man.
which is ridiculous.
It's ludicrous. He is, yeah, he's 21. Turns 22 in October. That's
Dude,
ridiculous.
a 20-year-old rookie came in, demanded 110 targets and over 1,000 yards. Like That's insane to me.
Yeah, he's at that point he's kind of just the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, so that rounds out that tier of tight ends for me. We got Kelsey in a tier of his own, Andrews tier of his own, and then Waller, Pitts, Kittle. Um, have we gotten to your five? What's your five?
Kelsey, I'll go with Andrews. Next, I would have Kittle at the three. Me personally, I have Waller at the four and Pitts at the five, just
Okay.
because of like you said, the things I feel like are more of safe bets. But I also feel like that's just me being an old man, not wanting change right now. But
Yeah,
I
that's
could
fair.
very easily see Kyle Pitts landing in that one or two spot at the end of the season, but
Yeah,
just based off of talent alone.
right. Yeah, so even with a little bit of discrepancy, we're pretty much in line for those top five, which is kind of what I expected. Those are really the premium guys that you're looking to go after. And then for me at six, I did small tiers here just based on the way that I'm drafting them. He's also in a tier of his own, and that's Dalton Schultz
Yep.
for the Cowboys. I'm not sure talent wise whether it's worth like moving him up into that tier above him. I don't think he's there yet, but there's just so much opportunity as far as like target share availability and stuff like that with this Cowboys team and how fast paced they are. So I see him having a good season this season.
He absolutely gets that nod for me, like you do too, right outside the top five because of how much opportunity he has. But I
Yeah.
also very much could see a oh yeah, Blake Jarwin, he caught this touchdown. He's got two touchdowns today. Just
Yeah.
just because that's who Dak felt like throwing the ball to. But Dalton Schultz is actually extremely solid last year too.
He was the tight end three.
Yeah, he was extremely solid. I don't know if he's going to hit those same numbers next year, but he's got the opportunity to definitely land in that top five as well. Like stuff is going to get shaken up this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. He was the tight end three overall and the tight end five in points per game. He played all 17, whereas Kelsey, Gronk, and Kittle missed some games. And so he was behind all of them in points per game by actually a somewhat significant margin. He had 10 points per game. Kittle was at 11.6 with only 14 games played.
Sheesh.
Um, so that's kind of why I have him drop down a tier. I think that has a chance to jump up for him this season with Amari Cooper gone, with Michael Gallup out for the beginning of the season. We talked about that James Washington injury, whether he was going to get mixed in or not. But the ball's going to have to go somewhere, and I think he's going to get a lot of targets.
Yeah, he's just like it's the land of opportunity in Dallas right now because it's CD Lamb and a rookie outside of Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin. So it's definitely going to be, he's going to have to take that step up. It's not even
Yeah,
really going to be his choice. So in terms of just production, it's going to be very top heavy, I feel like, too. But at the grand scheme of things, points are points. They are what they are. You're going to get your wins where you get them. So
yeah.
he's a good option. But I don't, where is he falling right now, ADP wise?
So his ADP is he's going as the tight end seven, just behind TJ Hawkinson. It looks like at the 65th overall pick, so like middle of the fifth round, I believe.
Oh, okay. So not bad. It's a good spot to pick him up at.
Yeah, so this is where like the strategy comes in, right? Like I think that he's close enough to that upper tier where that ADP is probably justified, but it's really hard for me if I miss out on those like top tier guys that Kelsey through Kittles to like take a mid round tight end. If I'm not getting like a top tier, a lot of times I just punt the position until the end of the draft.
You know, it's funny. I always wonder how like slides and stuff happen in drafts, and this is exactly how it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it makes sense. It's just I disrespect the tight end position so much myself is that I can never draft one and feel comfortable, especially early. I
Yeah.
think the one year I did that in our league, I finished second to last. So
Yeah, like that's kind of what I was talking about with Kelsey in the first round. Like roster composition and team makeup can get weird when you take a tight end early. It's definitely something that you got to prepare for, something that, for people that may not have done it before, like I would suggest going out, doing mock drafts and trying that out to see what your team ends up looking like before you go straight into your draft.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend because if you go in with no plan and you do it, your team will come out weird and you will lose. Uh,
Yeah,
but Dalton Schultz in the fifth, so real, he's gonna end up sliding most likely in a lot of
I would
drafts.
think.
And even if he doesn't, a lot of the people left after him are still, yeah. I mean, we'll get into it.
Yeah. So he's your six also, I'm
Yeah,
assuming?
he's definitely that fringe six for me as well.
Yeah. Okay. So who's your seven? Let's keep moving it down.
My seven is gonna be Dallas Goddard.
Okay.
Me personally, I just think that in Philly, he's got a role already. He's got that chemistry with Jalen Hurts already. People
Yep.
have been. I know the last time I talked to you about Jalen Hurts, he wasn't doing very well in training camp, but I
Yep.
think since then he's actually been stepping it up a good amount. And they have been saying that Goddard has been looking good as one of his main targets in training camp.
Okay. Yeah, I got a big spiel coming for when we get to the NFC East about Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and my take on them, but we'll save that for another video.
Okay.
Dallas Goddard is in this tier for me. It's another tier of three guys. For me, I'm a little bit worried. One, the target volume might not be there, especially at the end of the season last season. Like first 7 games, I believe, they were around league average for like pass to run ratio, the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
But then after week 7, they switched coordinators, or at least play callers. Sirianni was calling plays and he passed it off to I forget who. But then they went super run heavy and they were only passing the ball, I think, like 24 times a game.
Mm.
Um, and that's just an incredibly low number when you're talking about a wide receiver core with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and then like also Dallas Goddard. Um, I agree with you. I think he's super talented. We've been waiting for Zach Ertz to leave for this moment where he can kind of break out. And he was heavily targeted last season, but there wasn't much else there. I think with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith taking the next step forward, it worries me a little bit about how consistent he's going to be.
I think consistency is an issue, but I think to sort of counter that, Dallas Goddard in like his career so far, he's been very like efficient with the touches he has gotten.
That's true.
And I do think at a certain point that may end up winning out a little bit more so than his consistency, or at least consistency of targets. I think when he does get those targets, he will make something happen with them.
Yeah, yeah, I can agree with you there. He has been efficient, and I think that that probably could lead to some more upside than I'm giving him in my rankings. For me, the 7 spot, which might get a little bit spicy here, is Zach Ertz, actually. Um, yeah,
Cardinals Zach Ertz. Okay.
Cardinals Zach Ertz. So he, I believe, after he was traded to the Cardinals, was third in tight end target share from then to the end of the season.
Word.
Yeah, he was getting targeted really heavily. And you're talking about a Cardinals team who's going to be without DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 weeks of the season. Marquise Brown, like I think, is going to get his. He already kind of has some of that college chemistry with Kyler Murray, but I don't really have too much belief in Rondell Moore. AJ Green is dust. Like it, it's a 2-man target funnel, and I think Zach Ertz is going to eat at least for those first 7 weeks. And when we're talking about these mid-round tight ends, I just want a hot start. I'm not super worried if he tails off at the end. I can stream the position later, but I think he could be real hot to start the season.
No, I agree. He's gonna be another one of those very top heavy seasons, I feel like, because yeah, he doesn't have D Hop to start out, what, 6 games?
Yeah.
Marquise Brown is yeah. And we'll talk about Marquise Brown later. But Yeah, that's fair. I'm looking at it now and it says weeks 9 through 11, weeks 15 through 18, he had a 23.7% target share. I didn't know that was that huge.
which is that's more than
Yeah,
Kelsey, I think, for the season.
that's massive.
Yeah,
So without Hopkins in the lineup, if that's even somewhat similar, he's going to eat at the beginning of the season. So that, yeah, I gotta agree with that. I can't knock that. I can't knock that at all because I
yeah,
like
and
that better than a lot of other alternatives.
yeah, and I think you can get him at value too. I don't think a lot of people are drafting him as the seventh tight end off the board. I still got the ADPs pulled up. I might have to scroll for a second to find him, but um, for me, I have him ranked as the seventh tight end, but I think you can get him fairly late. He's been a target of mine. He's going as the tight end 10,
Mm-hmm.
average ADP of 99th. So what is that?
99th, 12 team leagues. That's a,
Eighth round?
yeah, about an eighth round
Yeah.
pick.
So I think for somebody that could give you that positional advantage, at least early until D Hop comes back, that's worth it for me.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I'm not happy about it, but I see where you're coming from there, and
I
it
don't
just
want to
makes
put Zach Ertz, the player, that high either. I don't love him as a player. I just think the opportunity is there.
yeah, it's like you can't disagree with the logic that's there. It's just there's so much opportunity. Kyler Murray is who he is, even though he's an annoying little twerp. Yeah, he's gonna end up eating.
Yeah. So that's my seven. Your seven is Goddard.
Yeah, so
My eight is TJ Hawkinson. I got Goddard right behind him at nine. And again, these guys are all in the same tier. They're fairly interchangeable for me. Um, Hawkinson is a guy that I think a lot of people last year wanted to put up into that upper echelon of tight ends. He got drafted with really high capital. He looked good coming out of Iowa. People thought he was a talented prospect. I've never been as high on him as I think like consensus or most people were. I think he's good, but I think he's also a really good blocker, and so his like he gets a lot of snaps. He's on the field a ton, but he's
mhm.
not running quite as many routes as you would want to see from the guy that you're relying on for fantasy points every week. And they're in a Lions offense that I think, even though they're improving, is still not going to be super efficient and have a lot of red zone opportunities.
I agree with the red zone opportunities. I think it's gonna be a weird situation because TJ Hawkinson, I'm looking at it now, he's been tight end 7 for the last 2 years straight.
Yeah,
So to say he's gonna fall below that or even like fall above that, I guess we kind of know where the ceiling is. You know what I'm saying? At that 7
sure.
spot.
Yeah,
It's gonna be strange though because they have added a lot of people to that like passing offense. Like I think they added what DJ Chark, they drafted
DJ Chark,
Jamison Williams,
who,
Amon-Ra St. Brown popped up at the end of last season, like the latter half of the season.
yeah,
And I just don't trust Jared Goff more so than anything.
I agree with you there.
But I do trust TJ Hawkinson, the talent. But I don't know. I I don't like the idea of Jared Goff having so many options because I
Yeah,
feel like he's gonna mess that up.
yeah, I could see that. So for me, because I have Hawkinson, this one is really a coin flip for me. TJ Hawkinson versus Goddard. I could go either way. Um, you mentioned they bring in more receivers, more target options. Jameson Williams tore his ACL in the national championship game in January this calendar year, and with with how high they drafted him, I think that they're in it for the long term with him. They're going to give him plenty of time to recover. They're not going to rush it. So I don't see him having a big role until midway through the season, if not later than that.
True.
Uh, DJ Shark is fine. He's been, I guess, looking decent in training camp. I'm not too worried about it. Amon Ra, I like. I think he could demand a decent target share. But comparatively speaking, Lions versus Eagles, I think AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are going to command more targets than the competition that Hawkinson has, and that's really the divider for me.
To say we also got to factor in they got two receiving backs as well, two backs who are very good at catching the ball,
Sure,
and Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. I see where you're
that's
coming
fair.
from though. It makes sense in terms of pushing the ball down the field and who's going to get those looks. TJ Hawkinson's going to be up there, but Detroit's such a weird team. But yeah,
Yeah,
Jameson Williams, I didn't even think about that. He's not going to play for a while.
right.
And who knows how he's even going to come back. But yeah, I'm okay with that.
So we had your 7 as Goddard. What's your 8 and 9? Now that I've revealed mine.
Man, honestly, that Zach Ertz pick is nice. That Zach Ertz pick is nice. I'm leaving Goddard at my 7. I'm sticking to that. But I think I'm going to flip flop Zach Ertz and TJ Hawkinson. Because
Okay.
originally I had Zach Ertz at my 9, Hawkinson at my 8. I'm okay with switching the two of those. But like you said, they're kind of interchangeable.
Yep.
But for what I would use a tight end for, Zach Ertz would probably fit more of that mold because by the end of the season, I've got everything else figured out. If I don't have my tight end figured out, whatever, I'm just hoping I don't play Kelsey, you know?
Yeah. And with him, you have 7 weeks to find a tight end breakout that you can use for the rest of the season.
And you won't be super attached to a tight end, yeah, throughout the entire. Yeah, I kind of like that. I like those two flipped.
Yeah. Yeah. So to this point, we're really still pretty much in lockstep. Our top 9 is the exact same, just with a couple guys, flip flopping in order. This is where it really starts to get wild. These late round tight ends, anybody's choice. I can see putting whoever you want in these 10 through 12 positions. For me at 10, it's Dawson Knox. I think that his touchdown upside is still there. We were just talking about regression. He scored a ton of touchdowns last season
Mm-hmm.
on very low target numbers, very low reception numbers. So he was incredibly efficient. I could definitely see that regressing and him not scoring as many touchdowns. But when we're talking about these late round guys, I think he probably has the best chance to repeat those numbers of anybody else that's left, considering he's in the Buffalo Bills offense.
100%. Like we talked about this on the pod just because we did cover Dawson Knox a little bit already. This
Yeah,
is just us putting a number on him. But I don't know. I gotta hear more about what they're doing with OJ Howard too. And
sure.
that was
That's fair.
why, because I think on Fantasy Pros they had Dawson Knox above like Zach Ertz at like the 9 spot.
Mm-hmm.
And like we're saying now, I disagree with that. I don't think Dawson Knox is gonna have that same level of opportunity. I'm not knocking Dawson Knox as a player at all because he is very good and he showed us that last year. But just in terms of opportunity and being on the Bills, it's tough because it's a lot of mouths to feed. You got an elite wide receiver in Stephon Diggs. You got
Yep.
Gabe Davis, and who knows what they're going to do with him. Uh, but yeah,
Jameson
Dawson Knox,
Crowder.
Jamison Crowder, Isaiah McKenzie for whatever that's worth. But Dawson Knox definitely like he doesn't have that opportunity. He's gonna have to be efficient with what he does. That's why he
Yeah,
kind of does get that knockdown for me as well. So having him at that next, I like him more than the people that come after him. But I definitely take everyone else above him if I could before him.
of
It's
course. Yeah.
available. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you. So does that mean he's also your 10? Or
he
is
is
that
my 10. He is
okay?
my 10.
All right. And then 11 is so ugly, but Cole Komet. Uh,
Yeah, I was about to ask you who you had up there because I was like, it's definitely not Fryermuth for me or
no.
Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I could see people drafting for Armuth again where they think he's going to get that, sophomore year bump or whatever, but I think the Steelers offense is going to be more of a shit show than people really realize. Mitch Trubisky is having a terrible camp, and he's still listed as the QB1. Like people are saying, Mason Rudolph might be better. It's ugly out there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Steelers beat reporters are in shambles right now because it's like you said, I saw reports on two back-to-back days, one saying Mason Rudolph could be the starting quarterback, and
Yeah,
then the next day was Mitchell Trubisky is definitely the starting quarterback. And like, what
yeah.
changed in 24 hours? that
which
made
is
y'all
even
do this.
worse. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, you're
which
fine.
is even worse because they took Kenny Pickett and now he's like the QB3 easily. Like he's not even in the discussion.
Yeah, no one's even brought up Kenny Pickett
Yeah,
whatsoever since training camp started.
right. So we got off on a little Steelers tangent there, but Cole Kmet, equally as ugly of an offense, probably. Um, Chicago is going to be a dumpster fire, but their target funnel is there for the taking with Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet.
Hmm.
Cole Kmet didn't really have the touchdown luck last season. He hardly got into the end zone at all. I could see that regressing back to the mean a little bit, especially if his targets increase, which I think that they will. I mean, who else do they throw to? It's Mooney, Komet, and like a bunch of nobodies.
About to say, in last year, I'm gonna actually pull it up now. Yeah, he had an 17.7% target share, and that was just last year with them being the dumpster fire that they were.
Yeah, a
But
quarterback carousel, all sorts of stuff going on.
I do think he's gonna take a big step up. I think
Yeah,
he's gonna have to take a big step up. But I don't know, man. I saw some reports from the Bears training camp saying that Justin Fields is happy. Not that he's doing well or anything, but that he's happy. So we'll see what that even means.
any positive news out of Bears camp is just fantastic to hear.
The good news is too, we're gonna see a lot of these starters play in the preseason too. I think
Really?
they made a point out of that like a lot of the starters are gonna play in the preseason, at least game one.
Okay.
So
I
we
guess that
will
kind of
get a look at what this offense is gonna look like somewhat.
yeah, that kind of makes sense with the new regime coming in. They want to see what they have and get everybody acclimated to the new offense. So that's exciting to hear.
Also, shots
Um,
fired at Matt Nagy, but
dude, always hate that guy. So are we still in lockstep here? Who's your 11?
no, Cole Kmet was my 11 as well.
As well.
I honestly thought that was going to be a bold take on my part, and then the second you said it, people can rewind it and look. I started cheesing because I was like, "Yeah, there's no way." So
That's
yeah,
funny.
Cole Kmet is my 11 as well.
Yeah, we think two alike. But
Yeah.
we don't need to talk too much more about that. We get to our final spot here at tight end 12. I have Alberto. We kind of talked about him as well in the first video. Um, he had a really, really good statistical year last year. Even with Noah Fant still on the team, he was up at like 50% of the snaps. His yards per route run, his yards per reception were some of the highest in the league. So, like from an underlying statistical standpoint, I think he's due for a boost. Athletically, if you look on Player Profiler, he's just off the charts as far as athleticism, and he's a huge dude. And especially with Tim Patrick, news of Tim Patrick going down with the ACL injury,
Hmm.
um, I could see him getting a big portion of what would have been Tim Patrick's red zone looks. So I think the touchdown upside is there in a revamped Broncos offense.
Got you. No, that bump up makes a lot of sense. Me personally, I went with Fryermuth just because I did want to trust the young talent there. I know Pittsburgh is a bit of a dumpster fire, but at the same time, as we've said before, ball's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And I do think Pat Fryermuth does have the trust of the coaching staff in that aspect. He's young. Um, with Albert O, I just have to know more about him. Like I understand all the stats and stuff like that, but me personally, I didn't know who he was before you and I really had that talk. Like I
Yeah.
knew who he was. I'd heard the names. He's the guy on the Broncos with the super long last name, but but it was just it's one of those things where it's like I couldn't trust it, but I still did give him that bump up because of everything that happened with Tim Patrick going down, with everything that you told me about him as a player.
Yeah.
So I do have him right outside of that top 12 spot, but I did throw Pat Fryermuth in there just because I did have him all of last year. I did watch a good amount of those games, and I don't know, I see promise. That's why I said, like, I speak more from it's good that we work together the way we do because you speak from a statistical perspective. I
Yeah.
speak from more of an eye test perspective from what I see and what I've
Right.
experienced. And I do see that kid does have that dog in him. He's good. He's just
Yeah.
has to get past a lot of the rookie sort of just jitters because I did see him. He dropped like 3 touchdowns last year, I believe. 3 touchdowns I needed. I remember them. I
Yep.
needed them all for wins, and I was like, "This is my last chance." And he got those opportunities, and he dropped them, and that was with Big Ben's noodle arm throwing him the ball. So
Yeah.
I think he will take a step up this year, but this is all a crapshoot at this level of tight ends, anyway. So
Yeah.
I definitely see where you're coming from with Albert O.
Yeah, it's tough to really argue at this point with, like you said, it's a crapshoot. It's anybody's best guess. So I like what you're saying about Pat Freiermuth. I think it's really impressive that he was able to come out and do what he did as a rookie tight end. It's not very often that you see that, at least from a fantasy perspective, where he broke out year one. For me, the target competition and the quarterback situation are what worries me. He's got Deontay Pickens and Claypool all running with him, and Najee probably getting up there in targets from the backfield. But again, like I can make a good argument for him as well, like you said, with the breakout season in year one and him taking that next step forward. I could probably argue against Albert O with all the training camp hype about Greg Dulcich as well. So I'm not going to waste too much more time. We've gotten through our 12. These guys are all just, flyers at the end of the draft. But it's cool to see that we think as similarly as we do. I wasn't sure how it was going to look, but that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it did end up shaking out really well for us.
Yeah.
I will say though, Albert O, that guy's probably in my 13 or 14 spot.
Okay. So pretty
So,
close.
oh yeah, I'm not knocking the dude at all. I just got to see it. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those,
Yeah.
I got to see him play. So I'll probably do more research and actually look into him more outside of this just to, actually know who he is. Because I've seen him before for sure.
Yeah.
Also, are we going past the top 12? Are we staying at this top 12?
I think we'll stick with 12. At tight
Cool.
end, it gets pretty irrelevant after this point.
Cool, cool. I did want to bring up one thing though.
Let's hear
This is with because we spoke about him during our
it.
last thing. This is Gerald Everett.
Okay. Yeah.
I saw some news, I think
Yeah.
3 days ago about Donald
Mm.
Parham, and they are specifically saying that he is doing extremely well. And I
I
have
saw
not
that as
heard
well.
anything about Gerald Everett yet.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I got to give you your props for calling out Donald Parham. Yeah, it throws some cold water on my Gerald Everett take. I will take back some of that hype. That's a good call by you for sure.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Not here for the I told you so's, but it's just I don't. Gerald Everett confuses me because he has all of the talent in the world,
Yeah,
but he just hasn't really done anything with it yet. And he's letting Donald Parham take the news from him, you know?
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, with that all being said, be careful with your tight ends. It's gonna be weird once you get outside of that top 12. You won't really know what to expect, but just pay attention on a week to week basis. We're gonna keep things updated as the season goes along. I'm sure this is something this is something I always end up paying a lot of attention to because I always end up scrambling for a tight end. And I know Eric kind of drafts his teams the same way. So this may end up being the position that we're the most knowledgeable about throughout the season because it's the one we're
Yeah,
going to pay the most attention to.
for sure.
Like there's still some fringe people out there that we don't know anything about yet that we want to see play. Like I know me personally, I want to see Hayden Hurst
Yeah,
because he's in Cincinnati now, and that's a good opportunity. Still a lot of mouths to feed over there, but it'll be interesting to see at least what happens with them. There's still Evan Ingram with Jacksonville. See
yep,
what he even does. So just stay tuned in, stay watching because we're gonna keep updating as soon as we hear new news, and just more information on these tight ends. We'll try to get that out to y'all as quick as we can and just as efficiently as we can. So, with that being said, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We're trying to build a community over here. We're going to try to get a Discord running soon as well. I
Yeah,
know it's a
that'll be
little
dope.
bit, early in the works. We're just getting started out, but you got to start somewhere and we want to do hit the ground running. So
Heck yeah.
information will be in the description. You can follow us on socials. You can follow Eric on Twitter. Eric will be more active on Twitter sometimes.
I'll do my best.
I actually just recently consolidated all of my social medias so they're all the same username now, which is kind of cool. But that'll all be down in the description. Appreciate you for watching. Appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to just learn something. And if you got something you want to teach us or there's something we missed, let us know down in the comments because we'll go through and read all the comments. And yeah, Eric, you got anything else for the people?
Just to let them know what we got going on next. We're going to get through all these divisions before the start of the season. We're also going to go through all of our positional rankings like we started today. We're going to get through tight end, wide receiver, running back, and quarterback before
Mm-hmm.
we get to that start of the season to make sure all of you guys are ready for your drafts. That's the goal. So with that being said, I think we can probably wrap it up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.